Hello and welcome to the Let's Talk Fishing video podcast. My name is Jay Angel. I'm going to be your podcaster for this evening. The Let's Talk Fishing video podcast tonight is brought to you by Razor Rods. Razor Rods, that's RAZRRODZ.com, just like the crawler at the bottom of the page. Check them out, guys. Check them out. Some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful rods. And speaking of Razor Rods, I have a professional guide here who's been around the fishing industry for at least 4 decades. I mean, this guy has done it all from the PWT to guiding to, I'm sure you fished the NWT too, didn't you, Bill?
I did. I've kind of gotten away from that, Jay. Last NWT tournament was June of 21 out in Lake Erie.
Okay. Well, none other than Bill Kutka, Razor Rods Pro, Bill Kutka, professional guide. I mean, this guy does it all. He guides up in Hayward, Wisconsin, which is one of the coolest places in the world, Lake Erie, and now tell them where your new endeavor is.
Southwest Florida, fishing the Fort Myers, Port Charlotte area, and loving it. Just got a 24-foot Key West down there, Jay, and that's my winter mission. So there goes my rest. I rest when I go down there now. So
plenty of time to rest in the grave, huh?
Yeah. Well, thanks for the introduction. Boy, four decades. I was sitting there while you're saying that. I was like, God, I must be old. But I started fishing when I was 5, so 4 decades. That makes me 45.
45 years old,
yeah.
We're all getting old, Bill. We're all getting old.
I just said that to somebody at the ramp today. We were talking about something, and there's days I feel. Well, there's a lot of days I feel it now. Being on the water every day, you get the aches and the pains a little bit easier as you're out there. Because I move around like a ninja in the boat, and then I come back and I act like Tim Conway in the old Gil Burnett episodes, walking like Mr. Huygens through the house,
All hunched over.
Yeah, and then I got my wife telling me, I told you so, you're booking too much. Well, yes, I am, but I love it. So.
Not as easy to jump out of the boat at the end of the day either, is it?
That part doesn't get to me. It's when I stop moving is when it catches up to me, like when I get home after I'm done putting everything away. So
what are you fishing for right now?
Anything that bites would be the right answer, but
sure.
We're targeting a lot of good. I've been posting some really good smallmouth activity. Today we got a 20-inch smallmouth. Just pigs. Yesterday 19.5 was the biggest. So I'm targeting smallmouth right now, walleye, doing some largemouth, and then panfish is still always a light passion of mine. Tomorrow afternoon, I got 2 trips tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon, we're going to go chase some crappie and some bluegill on a little 200-acre lake. So just a little mix of good fish up here. So,
are the smallmouth starting to look like footballs this time of the year yet?
It's kind of funny you said that. I posted one 2 days ago, and they're just fat. I've been talking to Max Walter. He's the biologist with the Wisconsin DNR up here. I do a lot with them and shocking and stuff, and was bantering with him a little bit about it. But there's so much forage in the system right now up here. There's just clouds and clouds of bait, and the fish you're getting are just chunky donkeys. I got a smallmouth yesterday, or 2 days ago. I mean, even in the picture, you could see the bulge of the fish and they're choking up fish too. They'll be choking up little perch or little clayfish or crayfish cloud dust as they come up. They throw it up, and it's just like all crawfish parts coming out. It's just a feed bag right now.
Okay, so if there's that much food in the system, are you power fishing or finesse fishing for them?
Both. It's kind of funny you said that. I'm blessed to be backed by Lowrance as well as Razor, and so I've got 2 active targets on my boat. And today I had a 12-year-old on my boat, Caleb, who I had out last year. I had him and his dad today, and last year I had him and his mom. And Caleb got his personal best fish with me last year, a 17-inch smallmouth and a 24-inch walleye. And today he got that 20-inch smallmouth.
Jeez.
But, we're doing a lot of sight fishing with the active target. And probably for the last week or so, we're on fish, we see fish, we're dropping it with the active targets, and you'll get them, they'll come up, you get 3, 4, 6 fish come around you, and they'll look, you'll work it a little bit, then they kind of go off. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to see if they want something aggressive. You go aggressive, they run like rats off of a ship down the line. They just take off,
Yeah.
But I've been doing some snap jigging, but more
Okay.
finessing right now. Slip bobbering, drop shots, light jigging.
We have a comment from the audience.
Yeah.
It's Steve Kisser. He says the bait fish seem to be everywhere this year, but they are tiny.
Yes, they are. And the weeds are thicker than ever, too, because of the light winter that we had up here. So we got a lot of weeds. But, yeah, there's just clouds. And you can pick them up on your I've got Lowrance 12s on my boat. And then with the active target, you can see them, too. But it's just clouds of them. And to his point, absolutely, it's just a big forage of bait out there, and smaller bait, too.
So when are you drop shotting for these fish, or?
Yeah, we're out as deep as 34 foot down for walleye and bass right now when we're finessing with the drop shots. I love drop shotting. A drop shot with a number 2 hook, and we're doing leeches and jigs, or leeches and walleye suckers, even plastics right now a little bit. Bobbering them too. But I've said it to you before. I've got 4 rules to fishing. The first one is don't fish till you see fish. Why would you? So my second one is don't leave the active fish to go look for other fish. If they're taking a leech, will they take a sucker? Will they take a plastic? Well, and if you're drop shotting them, will they take a jig? Experiment with that active pile of fish. And the third one, and I used to fail at this a lot, Jay, and I think this is really everyone's Achilles heel, is you got to be willing to leave those inactive fish if they're not going to bite when you see them. That's my rule number 3. And all too often, I think people look at that and they say, oh, look at the fish are here. They're here. Or they bit here yesterday. If they don't bite in 10, 15 minutes, I'm burning fuel. I'm gone. Now, I may come back and check them. I check spots 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day. And when those fish trigger, you might have them for 20 minutes or 40 minutes or a half an hour. But, they may go when you pull out. But if they're not biting, you got to go. And my 4th rule is pretty simple. Go back to rule 1 and repeat. So that's my point is, I'm looking for my fish. And I'll tell, I probably do this 20 times a day. I'll tell the guys, pull them up, guys. Keep me in the water. I'm looking. I'll start the main motor. I'll get the Lowrance Ghost trolling motor, and I'll look for another pod. And then I'll spot it, and I'll say, drop them. And we'll drop down. And I'll tell you, a lot of times, as soon as you drop down, boom, boom, you get 1. You might get 2. You take 2, 3, maybe 4 fish out of that pile. They're going to get skittish. They're going to get nervous a little bit. You got to move. So we're dropping a lot. Or if there's a good school or there's a good activity, I'll put bobbers down as well. Drop shots are I love them because they're instant. Yes, you don't have to change your depths. You don't have to worry about things. You drop and you go. And we also fan cast them too. I always tell my guys, and sometimes they'll whip them out there. I said, no, you don't want to do that. 40 foot, maybe 50 foot, depending on the depth that you're in, because the drop shot, as everybody knows, if this is your weight, my hand here, you put your drop shot hook up above. I just did a post the other day on it. Your drop shot is just nothing more than a weight at the bottom of your line everybody knows them. But when you cast, if you go too far, you're not getting that lift off the bottom that drop shot needs to be at. You're too horizontal to the shore, to the bottom. So you don't want to go too far with your cast. But we do cast a lot with them as well, because you're going to fan cast and look. And I'll put my active target out as well too. We'll fan cast to them and pop a few fish out of that school.
Well, we have a couple of comments from the audience. The first one is from International Freshwater Fishing Hall of Famer Jim Grant.
Who is that? I've heard of this guy. I don't know. Hi, Jim.
And he said Kutka is a great guide in Hayward, always working hard with fabulous results. And my good buddy and fellow podcaster, Cajun Rob, who does the Coangler Corner podcast, he said the legendary Bill Kutka.
Oh, I'm honored. Thanks. Yeah, we'll have to try to hook up all three of us somewhere down there in the South. That'd be fun.
That would, if we could, yeah. If we can get Jim down there, that would be a lot of fun.
I told him he's so busy, and him and Jacqueline, but he's got an open door anytime. I'd love to get him. I don't care if it's intercoastal. I don't care if it's nearshore reefs, or go offshore a little bit. But I'd love to get him on some of that salt. All those fish down there are angry. I love it.
Oh yeah. Saltwater fish are just on a different scale, man. You can't. They're mean. They all have teeth.
No, it's fun.
With saltwater fish. They'll bite you. I mean, they will really bite you. So I got something here. Be perfect for those smallmouth bass fishing you're talking about. This is a razor rod, of course. Look at this thing, man. What I like about this, got those guides. This is a platinum series. I would definitely use this for your drop shotting. You need something a little beefier. I would hate to lose a 20-pound bass because I only had on 6-pound line.
Oh, I know. I use the Razor Edge series, Jay. Sure. 7 and 7.5 medium lights for my drop shot and my bobbers. And it's kind of funny. Obviously we support Razor, and Razor supports us. There's not a better rod out there, and you look at the difference in rods, and I get asked that all the time on the water and in seminars. It's, you'll hear people, they'll come up to me frustrated. They say, oh, I keep feeling those bites. I go to set the hook and they're gone. And I tell them, I said, you're not feeling that bite. You're feeling them go, they're done. They've had it. They're done. They don't want it. You got to feel that pickup, right? So, and I always tell them, I said, a good rod should tell you that you've got a bite before it shows you, before that tip even moves. A good combination of braid, good fluorocarbon or hybrid leader. That sensitivity of that pickup should be like a lightning bolt that comes through that line, through that rod, and into your hand and into your brain to say, I got a bite. And I tell you what, I tell people that all the time in the book, all the time. I said, you got to feel for the bite. You got to feel that pickup. And I always ask them when we get off the water, I always ask, hey, did you learn anything today? What did you learn? And sometimes I learn too, right? I'm always learning from my customers. Absolutely. But I think that's the single largest thing that I've taught people is you got to recognize that bite while it's there. And as soon as you feel that little bit of a bite, depending on the fish, I always tell them, I said, you'll know this, Jay. And some of the kids, the 20-year-olds look at me like I'm an idiot. I said, when that fish comes up, it should look like Marty Feldman. Its eyes should be crossed. You hooked it so hard. But as soon as you feel that little pickup, you load up and come up with it. I said, because I was out with Caballas last year. He's a great friend of mine. Keith Caballas. He was out here with me. We were double dipping on the active targets last year, casting some fish. And he said this, and I think it's true. He said 75% of the time when a fish picks up a bait, it doesn't know if it even wants it.
Yep.
But it knows it doesn't. The other fish doesn't. He doesn't want the other fish to get it. He doesn't maybe not know what it is. He may decide, I don't know if I want it or not, but I'm going to hang on to it for a minute. He said it's that momentary period of time that you've got to hook that fish. So when they spit it out, you think you got a bite. No, he's done with you. So a good rod will do that. Razors, bar none. AAA cork handles, machine stainless steel guides, graphite reel seats, the sensitivity of the way they lay their blanks. It's an extension of your anatomy. It really is. I know I may be it sounded like I'm overplaying it out there, guys. I'm not. Fish with them. I promise you, you won't have a better rod in your hand.
You brought up a great point there. With razor rods and braid going to a fluoro leader, you can't get with today's the stuff we have available today, you can't get any more sensitive than that. But you also have to have that line. You have to be paying attention. Man, have your hand. Oh, I don't want to do this again. Every time I bring out these rods, they end up in the fan.
How's that warranty working out, Jay?
How's that what?
The warranty working out.
Oh, I'll have my hand, my thumb right on the blank. I used to do this. Well, I don't do that anymore. That just ruins reels.
Yeah.
And but we used to need to do this because rods weren't that sensitive back in the 70s when you and I started fishing.
I think one of the simplest things that is important is the quality of components, right? What are they putting into these blanks? And when you use a really, U.S. made, U.S. components, the cork is brought in from overseas because Wisconsin doesn't grow cork, so they got to get the cork somewhere, right? But
we don't have cork farms.
Yeah. But AAA cork, and it's almost like wood, right? It's so tight and so dense. You pick up some rods in I don't care, going to a bait shop, pick up a rod and feel that cork. If you can press it in, it's garbage. Wait, even if it's on the clearance rack, don't pick it up. That's the difference, Jay, when that blank comes through the handle, and the handle has a good quality reel seat and that really tight AAA hard cork. That's where you're going to get that vibration, the other thing, another tip I do, a lot of guys use it. I use high visibility braid.
Okay.
I'm a very visual kind of guy. And I always tell people, watch for that line movement, especially when you're dropping. If you're in 30 foot of water and all of a sudden 20 foot down, you got slack.
Yes.
Something picked it up, because fish are in that column, as you're fishing. Not all fish are on the bottom when you're fishing that bottom. They're up feeding, 10, 15 foot up sometimes, chasing bait. And so always watch that line too, always.
Okay, we have another question from the audience. It's Brenton Zitka. He's from the great state of Minnesota. He said, just got here. What do you guide for, Bill?
Yeah, so I do, it's a simple question. I do everything but muskie, multi-species, May through September here in Hayward. And then I head out to Lake Erie in October and November, and I guide for they call it chartering out there, and down south I got to put on that new hat every time I change states. But I chase walleye and yellow perch, our perch, and we got some great perch last year out there, up to 15 inches, and obviously walleye up to 11 inches. It's fun. And then in the winter months, I'm down in Southwest Florida around the Fort Myers, Cape Coral area, intercoastal, and up to 9 miles offshore. So. If you just got there and just moved to that area, I used to live in Minnesota. I was a river rat on the Mississippi in St. Croix. If you need some tips, text me. I know a lot of Minnesota waters out there, and I know a lot of people out there. I'd be glad to help you.
Yeah, Brenton, I think he's lived there his whole life, man. That guy is really a solid fisherman, and he watches just about every one of my podcasts.
Oh, you said he just got that there, maybe just got on.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
He just got on. You misunderstood. Maybe I was vague there.
That's okay.
I was just reading what he wrote.
No, I love Minnesota. I fished I love Minnesota waters. Love it.
It's a lot of fun. I miss the Northland. I really do. I particularly miss the Northland in August. When it's 110 degrees down here, it's just no fun.
Yeah, we had a really hot period there, and Sunday night it cooled off. I think this morning or yesterday morning I left. It was 46 degrees on my truck. I leave about 6:15 in the morning. We got a really nice cool front that came in, but I think it suppressed the fish a little bit too. I had water temps up to 79 degrees on a 5,000 acre clear lake, Lake Erie. You know that lake, Jay.
Yeah, I know.
Last week, and then today I was on Grindstone. It was 71 degrees. So the water's still warm, but we've had a decent warm, but not a super hot summer up here.
So when are you going to transition over to Lake Erie?
I'll be out there starting October 10th, Jay. I'll get out there. I'll shut it down here in Hayward. I think September 29th, my last book trip right now. I'll book right through the end of the month and, kind of get the boat ready, 21-foot Ranger, get it all ready and re-rigged for Lake Erie.
Then when are you going down to Florida?
This year, it's still up in the air. We got a lot of things going on. Probably sometime in January.
Okay.
But that'll be the goal.
You heard it there.
December, January, February, March, and April in Florida.
So you heard it there, folks, man. This guy, go ahead and check him out. I guarantee if you want to learn how to catch walleyes, Bill Kutka is the guy. It's an investment. Taking a guide out is actually an investment. If you really want to learn, if you really want to fine-tune your fishing skills, go out with a guy like Bill. He's just like me. He's pretty much dedicated his whole life to learning the most he can possibly learn about walleyes. And of course, he catches at just about everything. Brenton also wants to know if you ever catch trout or salmon on Erie.
No, and I don't want them on my hook. I'm just kidding. Once in a while you get a steelhead out there and it just wrecks you. I'm pulling 10 boards out there offshore or 12s, and it'll go on the far right one and it'll come all the way across, and you just got a cluster mess. Yeah. So, but they're out there. They got some lake trout out there too. I don't target them. The season doesn't really warrant it, but you do get some steelhead there in October, and they're fun. They do go up in the rivers there a little bit too, and yeah. I might start doing that a little bit, on windy days or something. Take advantage of that and go up the Black River or one of those rivers and go chase some steelhead.
Well, that's fun. I chased steelhead a lot when I was in high school. I was living in South Bend, Indiana, so I was right next to the Lake Michigan shoreline, Michigan.
Yeah, I did the same, Jay. I grew up in Chicago, and my first boat was a 14-foot little smoker craft, semi-V, 6-horse Kiefhofer. I even tried to donate it to the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame and Museum, but Emmett said he's got enough motors. But I made my first downriggers out of golf cart wheels, and I was off the Chicago and Indiana harbors all the time, salmon fishing and perch fishing.
Yeah, you remember back there in the 70s, I used to take it was actually my dad's. We had I think 17 or an 18-foot Sylvan with a 40 horse, and I'd just go out there and troll around at the harbors, the St. Joe River, the mouth of the river. I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah, those were the days.
I caught fish too, particularly in the fall when they were coming in. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, but I appreciate your compliments, Jay. One thing that I think people find with me is I'm open book. What you see is what you get. I'm not a Grand Slam kind of guy. I lay down a lot of bunts in my life. If I tell you something, it's the truth. I'm not going to say something just because I want you to like me or to get you away from me, And even in the boat, I give people spots. I don't care. I want people to catch fish. I'm a member of the chamber up here. I love where we live. I promote and support our area. So anybody out there, any questions, I'm open book, man. You don't have to jump in the boat with me, and maybe you can Venmo me a tip. I'm just kidding. No, any questions, any tips. I just want people to have fun, and I love getting the kids in the boat.
Yeah,
like today I had Caleb out there, 12-year-old, just announced safety certification. He got that last year. I mean, he's an exceptional young man. But I had my youngest on the boat this year, Remy from Spain. He was a 2-year-old. We rigged up, and his mom and dad. So it was my first international customers and my youngest person on the boat this year. We rigged up a little rod that I had here for the grandkids, and he caught fish, and mom and dad were catching fish too. So I love families. I love getting the kids out there, and nothing warms my heart more than to see a kid walking with a fishing rod.
Let's switch gears a little bit here and talk about saltwater fishing.
Sure.
years ago, when I first met Brian from Razor Rods, he sent me this inshore series, and I still have it. And I've probably caught 300 trout on this, and I can't tell you how many reds. I like this inshore series because, like we talked about, you need to have, particularly white trout. They're always there. They're not my target species. I like speckled trout because they get so much bigger, but they just barely touch it. I mean, you have to be able to feel that. And you have to be able to react immediately.
Yep.
That's why I use razor rods with them. You can see that. You can't see it, so you know it's braid. The 20-pound fluoro leader.
Now, I'm the same way, Jay, and I think, being a northern guy, right, I apply a lot of my northern fishing down there. And I'll tell you a story here in a minute, but, I don't bring my razor rods from the north down south. I've got a stock of inshore and I've got a stock of offshore salt rods down there. But to your point, the backbone and I use the 7-foot inshores for my, my trout, my snook, sheep's head. You mentioned how light, you mentioned the trout bite, sheep's head. They're very, very light biters, and the sensitivity that those inshore rods give to you, you can get them. And so I love the inshore series.
You see this is called a popping cork. This is what we use. You can hear that. So you throw it out and you pop it, and it goes. I've heard it imitates a lot of different things. I think that imitates a shrimp popping out, because I've actually seen shrimp jump, 2 feet. But one thing I think is cool about popping corks is, where is that? You can see that right there. That was where a redfish bit the popping cork.
Yeah. I use a lot of plastic. It's kind of funny. I had a day. I had a couple folks out last spring down there. We did some intercoastal, and we're chasing trout. I think we got 68 trout that day. It was just fun. And I was using 4-inch white paddle tails and some moxies, and anyway, I get back in, and the guys on shore were saying, "Oh man, how many shrimp did you go through for all those fish?" I said, "Not one." "What are you talking about?" And I showed them what I was using, and they looked at me like I had 3 eyes, but that's why I like taking a little bit of that experimenting from the north and introducing at least to my fishing down there and doing something different, and I say this at my seminars too, you got to be different sometimes, right? If you go to school for a month and you're eating in the cafeteria and all they have is sloppy joes every day, you're eating sloppy joes. You come in one Monday, they got sloppy joes and cheese pizza. What are you gonna eat? You can try cheese pizza, right? So show them something different, whether it's in an action or a body type or something, and experiment.
This right here.
There you go.
3.5-inch swim bait. You see that color. Mojo Tackle makes this. If you want to look it up, mojotackle.com. It's just a little bitty thing, and I have caught. The biggest one I've caught on this particular thing is a 22-inch trout. That's a speckled sea trout, guys, for those of you guys. And speckled sea trout, walleye fishermen love specks. Set the hook, and they start. So your rod's just going. And what does that remind you of? The head shakes like that.
Oh, walleye thumping. And then they come up there with those 2 fangs, and
yep.
So how many times, Jay, have you had that tail bit off? Multiple, right?
Oh, happens all the time.
I'm going to give you a little trick. You probably do it anyway. Go to a stinger hook.
Yep.
I'm telling you what, those short biters or those nippers, a lot of times those smaller trout will clip that back. And I don't bury it in my plastic, even up here. I don't, like, if I use a hair jig without a bait, or even a standard jig with a minnow, I never hook it to my bait. I always let it stay free. And I tell you what, do that for the trout.
Well, you know what I've learned? I do a lot of fishing off the bridges down here. It's a lot of fun. When I cast this out there, I'm bringing it in against with the current. So I'm just kind of, start it down here and bring it up, bring it up, bring it up. So that thing's just pendulum them down really slow, using a 1/4 ounce jig head. And when I feel a bite, just kind of pull it back until I feel that click. Then I set the hook.
Yeah.
Because they'll just sit there. They have fangs, man. They're just going to sit there and.
Yeah. They're fun though. I love them.
Like a walleye. Walleye have teeth that point in. They don't have to. That fish isn't getting away from them.
No. I use my side imaging out there. I can get them even in 4 foot of water on my side imaging. And, you just look for those little piles of them, and they love the grass, and you try to find the grass, and then I'll get my active target looking, and I'll see a pot of them, and I'll fish them.
Do you have oyster beds?
Yep.
Oyster beds, man, they will stack up on oyster beds. But in 4 feet of water, that's where I like to use this rig.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show you this close up. This is another Mojo tackle. This is called the Mojo shrimp.
Oh, there you go.
And you see that? I don't know. Can you see that hook?
Yeah.
That is one beefy hook for a lure that small. The guy who owns this company, I have never been in his boat where he didn't catch at least a 30-inch red on something this small. I call him. I say that Greg Combo. He can catch fish in his own bathtub. He's that good.
Yeah. Yeah, but going back to the Razor series down there, he's. Bryant just came out with the series a few years ago. It's getting some good traction, and we're really looking to gain some market share down there. And you pick up some of those rods, and you feel that differentiation. Even the offshore rods, compared to what the others are using down there or buying, and price points are similar to what's out there, and the quality and warranties are in component manufacturing is the others don't even stack up.
So Jim Grant wants to know, what's your favorite bait for red snapper and grouper?
We do a lot of live baiting out there. We fish a lot of red grouper, a lot of gag. We don't go very deep to get those blacks. The blacks are out deeper. You got to run out, 80, 90 miles. We're running 60, 70. But we use a lot of pinfish. We use a lot of blue runners, squid baits. But the thing I've been doing a lot too is I've been doing a lot of not jerk bait, but jigging with hair jigs. Okay. 4 or 5 ounce jigs. I mean, it's uncanny up here. I'm going, a 30-second. Now all of a sudden I'm dropping a 4 inch or 4 ounce. And I'll put a lot of even if I've got live bait or cut squid, or when I have cut squid, I use some plastic bodies too, just for some more motion and a little bit of color down there. So we'll do that a lot. Snappers, we're using a lot of shrimp out there.
Shrimp.
And it depends on the snapper, right? I mean, we do a lot of you got lanes and vermilions out deep, and then you got the mangroves in a little bit more. We use a lot of snapper. We use a lot of cut bait. Use a lot of squid out there. The thing I'm going to start playing with those next year is I'm going to do some snap jigging. I'm going to get out there with some I don't know, jigging wraps, moonshines. I don't care. Try to trigger those fish. And I think even the reds too, Jay. You get a lighter moonshine or a jigging wrap out there in the shallows. The way they dart and move around, I don't know, but I think for the snappers, that's going to be my next year experiment is playing around with some jerk baits out there.
A lot of the tournament red fishermen around here use bass jigs with stuff like this on the back of them.
There you go. Yeah.
The same thing they'd use for bass, because reds reds are the largemouth bass of the sea. They're just bass on steroids, you know.
Yep.
And Jim Grant
I'm using like colored squid, 4-inch or 5-inch. Pink in particular is a good color for me out there. I don't know why, but I'm learning a lot.
Man.
I know, but that going to that too, like with the snapping, those inshore rods, they've got some good flexibility, right? They got the fast tips, but man, when that rod loads up, you still got 80% of your rod to fight that fish.
Yes.
And I think it'd be a good snapping rod out there too. It's just a good versatile series. It really is.
Okay, Jim Grant said that sometimes people don't know what they are missing until they move up to a higher quality rods. And Colin Burnett, who's another podcaster, he does Deck Talk. He says, when is the best time to catch big reds? Well, in Louisiana, the big reds come in shallow in the wintertime. That's when I love, if you can get out on the water, because in the wintertime, you got every 3 days, there's a storm that comes across the Gulf. So if you can get out there in the wintertime, it's a time to get out there. And also, it's much more pleasant in the South to fish in the wintertime.
Yeah, and I think going back to Jim's point, I think he's spot on. And I say this all the time too. If you go to Home Depot, are you getting an off-brand circular saw? Or are you getting a quality circular saw? Right? I mean, you don't have a lot of time to fish. I'm blessed. I'm on the water every day. Sometimes too much. It's kind of my life, but I love it, right? But take advantage of that time and have the right tools in your toolbox, from your rods to your baits, right? Invest in it. You don't have to buy 20. Buy 1 or 2. Go to sports shows. Put them in your hands. Ask people. But buy a good quality rod, because I guarantee it's going to make a difference out there. You're going to hook up more fish, and you're going to have more satisfaction when you come off that water, when you have a good rod and a reel with a good line combination in your hand. I promise you.
You put this thing in your hand, you will just feel the difference. You can't help but to feel the difference between that and other rods. I'm not going to badmouth any company rods. That's not what I'm about. But you will feel the difference between other rods.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's different, right? I mean, you got Apple iPhone, you got Samsung. I mean, everybody makes something, right? And it's a differentiation. It's the quality. It's how they back you, as well as a customer. And do your homework. But I promise, text Jay, text me. Get on our website. We got a good field staff. Everybody from bass to salt to fresh to whatever species. Ask questions. That's what we're there for. We're not there just for pictures and glory. We're there to help promote fishing and sell some rods. I mean, don't kid you, but the bottom line is, we'll tell you why we use it. I promise you I will.
I'm there because I believe in the product, and so do you, Bill.
Always. That's been my mantra for 4 decades. I've been with Lowrance forever, Mercury forever. I'm not one to have Velcro patches on my shirts or my boat. You see that all the frickin' time. It's like, the fishermen will say, well, what can you do for me? And that's not the way it works. It's what you can do for them. And I get approached or I recruit myself to a product that I've been using for years. And
Brendan wants to know what the warranty is, Bill. You want to explain that?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. There's no warranty. I'm just kidding.
What?
It depends on the series. You get into the platinums and the maxes, you got lifetime warranties, and then otherwise there's 3-year limited. No less than 3-year limited, up to a full lifetime warranty. And it's no crap going through the warranty replacement with Razor. They take good care of you.
Colin Burnett says, I tell people to get a higher quality rod. You can go a little cheaper on the reel, but the rod is the main thing. I don't want to go too cheap on the reel. I'll tell you that much, because when you're fishing the salt, you can't afford a cheap reel because they're going to rust the first time you take them out.
Yeah.
And even if you take them home and oil them like I do, man, You got to take care of the stuff that you use in the salt. Now, I do believe that you can go a little bit cheaper in the freshwater. I never had a freshwater. I never had a real rust because I used it in freshwater.
Yeah. Well, and you also need good drags out there too, Jay. You need
Yes.
that heavier drag.
You
Otherwise, you're putting line on all the time.
You hook into a 20-pound redfish, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Brenton just asked what my favorite reel for freshwater or saltwater. Man, I just started using these things. But the Shimano Stratic, I was hooked on Daiwa. Daiwa makes some fantastic freaking reels. But look at that thing, man. That's just beautiful. I'm gonna spool that tomorrow. I just like to look at it without. I just think that looks pretty cool.
Just put blue line on it, Jay.
Yeah. I was enjoying looking at it without looking at my fishing equipment. Helps with my mental health when I can't fish because it's 110 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Just helps. Just like, I used to like to look at my rods in February up north,
Yeah. Speaking of that, look at your rods. I look at my rods every day,
Yes.
while customers are coming down to the boat. I don't sit there and just drink coffee and look at the sun coming up. I'm taking every rod and I'm kind of looking them over. I'm feeling my knots, making sure my knots are good, making sure that my fluorocarbon, because we fish a lot of rocks, we fish a lot of timber, make sure I don't have a little phrase in it, and it's just that you got to just do those little final checks. It's almost like before takeoff when you're in a plane, do those checks, and you don't want to miss a 20-pound bass because of a knot. And that irritates me, operator error, if I don't tie a knot properly or if I didn't catch a little nick in the line or something. You got to do that.
One of my favorite fishermen ever, his name is Denny Brower. I've had him on my podcast a couple of times, and that's all he wanted to talk about is little things.
Oh, it's little things.
Details. And that's all he talked about,
Yeah. Life is a game of bumps, Jay.
Guy just said, what kind of knots does he tie for a leader line? I have all kinds of knots. I'll tell you what, though, I tie my knots the night before because my eyes, I can't see the line anymore.
Okay, so I'm 45. I'm just kidding. I'm 64. I finally broke down 2 years ago. I have prescription cheaters, and I tell you what a difference, because they're calibrated to your eyes, each eye, right?
Yes.
But I'm a simple kind of guy. I use a lot of polymer knots, and I do a double uni.
Double unis, yeah.
I look at guys, they're doing these FG knots and everything, and they've got their toes into it, they got their elbows into it, they're holding it with their mouth, and if I break off because of a double uni knot being 10-pound difference between an FG, oh well. But it's a good tight knot. If I go about 6 wraps on each side, moisten it up, cinch them down, clip it, and
people ask me why I bring 8 rods every time I fish, even if I'm fishing off the shore. Well, I don't want to have to tie another leader.
No, I can retie a jig or a line like Earl Scheib, man. I've got it redone before they're even done. But I always have backup rods, to your points. People aren't paying me to tie knots. They're paying me to fish. So before they even know that they lost one, I got another one baited up, handing it to them, and I'm re-rigging the one that they just broke. So.
Okay. Do you have any Geez, I really flubbed that one. Do you have any shout outs, Bill?
Oh, I just, I think we mentioned Razor quite a bit, and,
Yep.
Just proud to support them. We go around to all the sports shows. It's kind of cool to, I was down as far as Columbus this year and Madison, and, I love to get out there and meet the people and put the rods in their hands, and, I like the bashful ones. I like the ones that don't look at you. No, come here. Let's start talking. But I love that interaction. So, of course, Kelly, my wife, she's my rock. She's my biggest fan. She's, She's my biggest scolder. You know, she keeps me in line, but I'm blessed to have her in my life. But, I talked about Lowrance. I love having Lowrance, you know, in my life. I just talked to their tech people today. My Ghost trolling motor, I had a little bit of a thing I had to work on a hinge pin. Boom, bada bing, he got me fixed, and I'm back up and running. So, you know, they're at some cutting edge of technology right now, and I'm proud to be with them. You know, so FXR Pro Fish. If you guys haven't tried FXR Pro Fish gear, hit me up. I'll get you some good discount codes. You know, they're giving Huck and Blackfish and others a run for their money. They've been in the snowmobile and motocross industry for years, but their UPF 50 gear and rain gear, bar none. Headgear, you know, protection. It's awesome. They're actually YKK Zipper's largest customer. They're an awesome, and they got some cool stuff, cool stylish stuff. But I love their UPF 50 wear. But yeah, that's I appreciate everyone that supports me, Jay, and I appreciate you. You know, thanks for what you do. You know, you get to talk to everybody doing what we do, and then you sit there and you bite a 2x4 because you can't be in the water, you know. But I promise you, I'll get you out when we get down south. We'll get you. We got plenty of room. You come over, bring your wife, and maybe we'll do a podcast from the condo and have some fun.
I'd also like to do a podcast. Geez, I cannot talk tonight. I don't know what's going on. I'd like to do a shout out to Kind Eyewear. Thank you for watching the show. Thank you for commenting.
I'm just remiss. Yeah, Ken Bauman. I wouldn't be without my Kind Eyewear out there. You know, it's you know what I love about them is they're stylish. There's multiple lenses. You know, whether I'm using blue lenses out in ice blue lenses out in the Gulf, or dark smokes here in Wisconsin in the darker waters. You know, or darker days. And the other benefit is that you know, they're made of bamboo, and it may sound like, well, are they durable? I wear them every day, you know, and I've dropped them in the water. They float. You know, I haven't lost a pair, and but Ken Bauman's doing an awesome job with the company, and he's at multiple trade shows. He just put out a post the other day. I think he's already in 5 states, anywhere from Illinois out to New York next year. So look him up, KYND Eyewear.
We do have a question for that. Colin Burnett says, "Can Kind Eyewear do prescription?"
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, they can have your lenses. Your lenses can be put into the frames. Absolutely. Email Ken, KYNDeyewear.com. Ken Bauman. He'll walk you through it.
That's awesome. Well, you know, thank you so much. I know how busy you are this time of the year, and thank you so much for coming on and talking to our listeners here on the Let's Talk Fishing podcast. I always like having you on my show. You're just an encyclopedia of fishing information, and I just love picking your brain.
Well, we need to do them more often, Jay. Thank you for having me, and I'll always make time for you. Always.
You always do, and thank you so much. Hey, man, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into the Let's Talk Fishing video podcast. My name is Jay Angel again. And you know what? It's Thursday. I say this with every one of my podcasts because I believe it. Get out there, have some fun. Life is short. Have some fun, man. You're not going to remember. You're not going to sit there on your last day talking about how much you worked. Nope. Talk about how much fun you had.
Before we go, Jay, last thing. What are the 2 hardest fish to catch?
2 hardest fish to catch?
Yes. First and last.
First and last. I was going to say the fifth fish. The fifth fish.
Always. I don't care if I'm in a tournament or I'm guiding. I always ask that question. And I'd say maybe 1 out of 10 people will say first and last. But they're always muskie, lake trout, whatever. But seriously, it's that first fish.
Yeah, the first fish during a tournament and the 5th fish, yes.
Yeah.
After I catch the 5th fish, man, it's off to the races. I'm going to start, culling, and that's easy.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, I'm going to end the podcast with that. Bill, please stick around. I can talk to you for 2 minutes afterwards.
Will do.
Hey, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast, making this, you guys who comment make the podcast fun. It's not. I always have fun talking to Bill, but, it's fun to answer questions.